Today I'm joined by Lucie Frost, author of How the Hell Did I Not Know That? My Midlife Year from Couch to Curiosity. After retiring from a long career in law, Lucie found herself on the couch, drinking way more than she wanted to and binging way too much 90 Day Fiancé. She knew there had to be more to life than that, so she got curious. Her book is a collection of everything she explored during that year of curiosity and the lessons she uncovered along the way. Alcohol ended up being a bigger through line in her story than she even realized, and she shares openly about how her life looks now living alcohol-free. This is a conversation about reinvention, about not giving up, and about discovering just how big and beautiful life can be when you finally get out of your own way. So let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Lucie Frost. Hi, Lucie. Welcome to the Alcohol-Free Rebellion.
Thank you, Abby, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I know. I'm so excited to discuss everything today. To all of our listeners and everybody tuning in, can you just give them a little bit of background on who you are and specifically what inspired you to write your new book? How the hell did I not know that?
So I'm Lucie Frost. I'm a former lawyer who retired. And when I retired, I was completely lost. And I found myself on the couch watching 90 Day Fiancé going, this cannot be my life. And so I started looking for books about retirement. There's a lot about like the finances of it. There's a lot about like neuroplasticity and the science of brain during life transitions. But I didn't find a lot or really any midlife funny sort of this is how crazy this is a time when that you thought would be so great. And then you're like, oh my God, what's my life? So I, anyway, just started at the couch and started writing, decided I would sort of follow anything I was curious about and started writing about it. And then the book sort of ended up happening.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel like a lot of us can relate to that. You're kind of like, where did I end up? This is not what I was picturing, right? Whatever phase that is for you. Like, I know I've pretty much felt that at every phase of my life where it's like, I had this built up in a certain way, or I had these certain expectations, which I've since learned this just don't do that at all.
Right.
But yeah, whether it was college or my first job or living in New York or being a mom, like all, and I'm like, wait, this is not what I was picturing, in so many different ways. So I think we can all relate to that. And the kind of byline on the book is your midlife year from couch to curiosity. So I can just picture you sitting there watching these reality shows and just like, this can't be it, right?
Right. Well, and everybody says, find your passion. You need to go find your passion. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell that means.
It's like I have worked my ass off to become
Right.
a lawyer and have this huge career. And I just thought that like once I retire, it would just like naturally happen, right? Like,
Right.
I know.
And then when you're stuck there just drinking wine, watching reality TV, the idea of any big, huge passion project, it's just not possible, right? So that's why I sort of decided I can't do that. My brain it's not possible to go that big. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to learn the next thing I'm curious about, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it started learning about the fiancé versus marital visa process, and then what medical conditions will get you kicked out of the visa program, and just any little thing. And then it just slowly, one by one, led me to where I had a full life. But if I had really gone there was no way to go from 0 to 100. And so it just worked for me,
I know. And I feel like I've talked to so many people. I'm kind of in that phase where we have like younger kids, but they're getting a little bit older. They're, getting a little bit more independent. And so a lot of us look over to our husbands and see, well, they have lots of hobbies. They have how many fantasy leagues, and they're going on these golf trips, and they have these they can recite movie lines for days, and they have all, and it's like, well, what are my hobbies? And it's
all of my kids' medications. I know who their doctors are. You didn't know any of that.
Yes.
you
Like,
know?
it's like you
Yeah.
get so consumed in that. And I can only imagine. So I'm only at this phase. Like, I can only imagine as it goes on, and you get so wrapped up in the kids' schedules and their activities and being there for them. And it's like, okay, I get really comfortable with this. And then it happens again where that all gets shaked up.
Right,
Right.
right. And then
So
when all of those identity things, it's like you're a parent, you're a wife. I got divorced sort of around the same time. So you're a parent, you're a partner, you're an employee, you're a professional, and then all those things go away. And it's like, what am I?
yeah.
And that was the challenge. And it's like, I guess I'm a wine drinker, is what I am. It
I
appears.
know, girl, you're in the right place because I mean because it's uncomfortable, and I think
Right,
we don't like uncomfortable feelings, right? We've been told that's bad by society and everything, so it's like, well, what will take this away? Well, I know this will take it away, and it's acceptable enough, right? It's not like
right,
you're doing like hard drugs on your couch. You're drinking probably pretty nice wine and you're watching TV and you're like, okay, I guess this is it. But deep down, you're like, this is crushing me. There's so much more, right?
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, what was the first step? So, I know you said it was like whatever kind of popped into your mind, you started researching?
It was absolutely anything that popped into my mind. And my book is kind of like a whole series of rabbit holes of the things I was curious. Anything from can you eat roadkill to, what really was the plague? Was it a
Yeah.
specific bacteria or like a mass killing disease? Or what does that mean? To why are Anderson Cooper's eyes really that blue? I mean, it was just any random thing that popped in my head.
And you know what that reminds me of? So much I'm doing a lot of different work and learning and listening to different people, and a lot of it comes back to we get so far away from like what brings us joy.
Right.
Right. And it's like over time. So I grew up dancing, and I was a good dancer, but I wasn't like the best dancer. I wasn't going to get into Juilliard. Right. So there was this point where it was just like, you kind of got to let this go. Like, if you're not going to make it your profession, if you're not going to be the absolute best, like, you need to find another path that for survival, really, And so I left that behind. I didn't have like the most support to tell me to continue to do that just for the joy of it. But I think
Mhm.
a lot of us get into that, and it starts to be like, well, that's kind of silly, or it's very easy to brush away those just for the joy of it things for more serious things that are going to give us those kind of solid achievements attached to them. But when you're saying this like curiosity and literally just kind of going based on what thoughts pop into your head, it reminds me of my kids. And like,
Right.
what
Yes.
more, they're so connected to their joy, and it's one question after another. They would ask me all of these questions that you're mentioning, right? They would be like, well, why is that? Well, why, constantly. And I feel like
Yeah.
we get so far away from that of just like not being curious anymore.
It's so true. And the interesting thing is that if you do follow your curiosity, it really takes you to what your passion is. And for me, it really brought me to, I love humor. And so I love writing and words. And so I started doing some writing and writing down the things I was curious about. And then I took a humor writing class from Second City and then did their whole humor and satire writing training course. And next thing you know, I was writing for humor publications, and it just takes you, if you really will just chase the things you're curious about, it'll take you to where you need to be. And it
Totally.
sounds so silly and frivolous at the beginning, but your mind knows what it's interested in if you'll just let go of like all of the societal expectations and your internal expectations of what you should be doing and focusing on.
Absolutely. Because we're
Yeah.
so quick. Like, I'm sure if you talked to you the day you retired, right? Like, you're like, well, I'm a lawyer. I'm not going to go. If you said you're going to go to Second City and take a humor writing class, you would be like, what's wrong with you? I'm not doing that. Right.
Right.
And there's fear. It's like, well, what if I fail? Or what if you put all these different expectations on yourself? And it's like, well, just maybe it doesn't have to be for some sort of outcome. Like, that's incredible that you had that outcome, but maybe it's just for the experience of taking the class and just learning something and going through that process, right?
And you know what? And that's exactly what my thinking was at the time, because I remember saying, nobody says when you hear of a woman who's painting, You don't say, well, are you going to be the most famous painter? Are you going to get that in an exhibit? Are you going to put it up in a museum? It's like, no, I just like painting. And so that's sort of the freedom I had to give myself with writing, is it doesn't have to go anywhere. I can just enjoy it.
Absolutely. And it's so cathartic. I'm working through, have you heard of The Artist's Way? I feel like I
Of
talk
course.
about it on like every podcast because I'm doing it. So it's so front of mind. But so I do my morning pages. And so it's been several months now. And I was actually writing this morning about how I've been able to stay consistent with it. And that's generally something like I'll get really into something and then it kind of fades away.
Right.
But this, because it feels so good. And I feel like it just allows me to like recenter myself. It feels cathartic. There's something about it. But when I first started, I was like, this is ridiculous. And Julia Cameron says in there, she goes, I know what you're saying. It's ridiculous. And you're just going to write your stream of consciousness. Like that sounds crazy. But eventually, because I feel like you need to listen to yourself, and it's a way to do that if you can't like meditate or sit in silence, which I think is like a stretch for people.
I did. So Julia Cameron has another book that's specifically geared to midlife people that's called It's Never Too Late to Begin Again. So, but it's really the same concept, just packaged differently. And so I did morning pages, same thing. And I remember days where I would just, because the expectation is that you write, or not expectation, but the goal is that you write 3 pages. And so some days it would just be like, I would write, I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to say. I don't have,
yeah.
But then suddenly you do that enough and then words start flowing and ideas start, and it really does surface so much.
Yeah. Because it's that resistance. Like you start to realize how much of a resistance you have within you around these things. And your mind tries to talk you out of a lot of the different things just because you're a little, there's fear there, or there's, all these different conditionings that we're used to. I feel like we can all relate to that for sure.
Yes.
That's incredible. Okay. So what was the process of writing this book like? Like how did you do it? Was it as you went along and you were discovering these things, or did you discover and look up all these things and then write the book after? What did that look like?
So I started writing them up as I went along, and what my sort of rule was, because I'm not kidding, the only place I was on my couch. So my rule was, if I'm going to sit here all day long, which apparently this is what's going to be happening, I'm going to learn 3 things a day. So I actually started it as a learn 3 things a day project, and then I would write about those things. And then as I ventured off the couch and then started going to restaurants or, eventually travel and then those writings sort of broadened. And then, I can't even count how many of them I had at the end. And then I narrowed them down to pick the ones that would go in.
That is so cool. That's awesome. What surprised you the most through this whole journey?
Emotionally or fact-wise, like things I learned?
Emotionally first, and then we'll go to the fact.
Okay. Emotionally, just realizing how much of my identity was tied up with my work. I don't think I had any idea that was true. I really didn't. And then, I would bump into somebody at the coffee shop and they're like, well, what are you doing these days? And I'm like, I'm a lawyer. Well, I'm kind of not a lawyer. Well, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not practicing more. But I always had to throw in that I was a lawyer. Yeah. And which is crazy, right? But it was such a part of my identity. I did employment law, so the whole human resources thing was just an affirmative action law, and that was my world, and so just really realizing that had almost become me in this unhealthy, weird way.
Yeah. It's almost like you create like an avatar or something. And it's
exactly.
This is me. And there's like comfort in that. But also you realize once, if that's taken away or once that phases out, it's like, wait a minute. Like I was so comfortable with that. And like, who am I? Like, what is underneath there?
Right.
What do I care about? What do I love to do? And it's a little scary.
Yeah. And, as a lawyer, people pay to hear what you have to say, right? Like they're paying real money. Once you retire, nobody cares what you have to say. Now I have learned immense freedom in that, right? Like you can just say whatever the heck you want. And that gets better and better as you get older. And I love that. But at the beginning, it was really confusing. It was like the people talk about older women being invisible. And I think I felt that maybe for the first time. once my advice was no longer really sought out.
Yeah, you're like, well, what's my value? What am I
Right.
bringing to the table here as a human?
Exactly.
And where do I fit in? And what it's almost like, I mean, all of these different transitions we go through in our life have a similar thread through them of that feeling of like, well, where do I fit in? And how do I navigate this? And it's scary. It's really scary,
Right.
but that's
Yeah.
also the time where that's like the rebirth, and where I feel like for me, the more when I'm in those phases, and I haven't seen this yet, this is what I'm learning now. The more I lean into the creativity,
Yes.
the more it has a way of working itself out rather than trying to force things and force where my position is or force what that label is or search. Like, I would just feel like I've constantly been searching outward for,
Right.
do I
Right.
belong to this group, or how do you see me? I always ask people that, like, well, I can't see myself. How do you see me? Like, I was just so confused with that. And the more I lean into the creativity, whether that's writing or dancing or whatever it might be, the more I like can see myself. And there's like a
Exactly.
piece to that, right?
Exactly, exactly. It's funny because I started doing the reaching out, I'm going to garden, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to do, and
Yeah.
initially the reason why I left work, and I was young to do that, is because I intended to do pro bono legal work in the immigrant detention centers. But then when I actually went to do the work, it was just so emotionally devastating that I wasn't able to do it. And then I had so much shame associated with that it's just like, these are all the things I should be doing in this world, and you feel just guilty and horrible because you're not. And the trick is, I think, to let go of all of those sort of, I should do this, I should do that, and just, it's like, what brings my heart joy? And you don't know that at the beginning, of course you don't, because it's under so many layers. So it's just sort of starting to unpeel those layers around your core. I don't know, that sounds
Totally.
corny, but
No, no. I
yeah.
relate to this so much because I feel like I was so caught up in the shoulds, or,
Right.
this is what I should be doing, or this is what would be impressive,
Yeah.
or, and it's all in your mind what you think that is. But what I've found because I've been in this big transition. I was in the corporate world and working my way up and sales and all of these different things. And I found my whole identity in that. Good and bad. It was like some of the highest highs closing
Right.
some of these deals with these huge companies, and then lowest lows when it didn't work out so well. And the swings were just insane. But what I found is, instead of focusing on those shoulds, it was like, well, if I focus on what brings me joy, and then I start like radiating that joy, that's going to
Yeah.
have a ripple effect. Like,
Right.
and it's hard to see that because it feels like less tangible than like working in an immigration detention center, and right, because in our mind that's very tangible, but it's like, no, but look at what you were able to create by leaning into that joy. Now you've even just, this conversation we're having that's going to reach people, or your book, which is going to reach all these people, like that is going to have an enormous ripple effect as well, right?
Right. 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 No, it's a hard thing to sort of recondition when you've been, you're conditioned from the very start. Be good in school, sit in your chair, become the teacher's pet. I don't know what, make good grades. There's
Yeah.
all this conditioning about expectations that you get your entire life. And
I know.
I mean, obviously, we need to acknowledge that there's some privilege here, a huge amount
Yes.
of privilege here, that we
Yeah.
just get to follow whatever we're curious about. And obviously, not everybody gets to do that. But even if you're working all day, when you're home, just really saying, I'm not going to do what's expected of me. I mean, so what if the dishes sit right a little bit? I'm really going to read this book, or whatever it is that brings you joy.
I know. And a lot of, because then we get into the whole perfectionism conversation, right? And that's intertwined, I think, a lot for women and high
Mhm.
achieving women and all of this. And so it's like giving yourself permission to leave the dishes in the sink, or
Right.
I had to get very comfortable with asking for help from
Right.
whoever
Right.
was around, right? Like, you deserve that. You don't have to do this all yourself. And it doesn't have to be done to this ridiculous standard that somehow you got in your head, whether that was from social media or wherever. It's like understanding that it is equally it's more important to be following those passions and finding that joy to replenish yourself. Like, you're not finding that joy out of like having a clean sink every night necessarily.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I am embarrassed to say that I am one of those people who is still balancing my checkbook until like 10 years ago. It's like, what are you doing? This is no longer required.
I know, because you just get so used to it.
Used to
And
do it,
there's,
yeah.
especially with money, I'm sure there's still like a fear there, or like, this is how I've always done it. So if I change, it's not even like a conscious thought a lot of times, but it's like, well, if I change this, like everything might fall apart.
Right,
Or,
exactly. It's like
yeah.
this illusion of control, which is
Yes.
so laughable, you
Oh
know.
my gosh. Once you realize that, right? Because I just had, I mean, just the tightest grip on everything, and thinking that if I worried about all potential outcomes,
Yes, that saves everybody.
it's like, are you kidding me? It's like you're literally just burning all of your energy and not replenishing. You're on a fast track to burnout, which actually is not going to help anything.
Right.
But again, it's so hard to see that when you're in it
Of
and
course.
doing all
Of
of that.
course.
So I feel like there's obviously, the kind of focus of this podcast is a lot about sobriety and, out my alcohol free journey and all of this. I feel like it spiders out, right? I keep telling people, like, I feel like that was almost like the first step. And then it's like, whoa, this whole other world opens up once I'm able to clear that out. But I do feel like there's a lot of parallels to this curiosity and letting go of some of those numbing
Right,
strategies,
right,
right?
right.
So was that a piece of this as well for
Yeah,
you?
it's interesting because when I read back, so I don't drink at all anymore, but when I read back at the book, I really, it's almost makes me cringe a little bit, like how much I was holding on to that wine. But as I had more and more time to just say, what does bring me joy? And then it's like, is the alcohol bringing me joy? And, at first, honestly, it was. I mean, I got so much joy out of drinking and had so many fun times, and it did help. It just does
Yes,
help with the anxiety. If it didn't work, nobody would drink.
exactly.
But at some point, it became where it really was hurting. And one of the things I struggled with, and I'm getting off topic here though, but is that I was just never going to hit a rock bottom. I mean, maybe I would have, but I was so functional that I was like, do I really? Well, one, maybe if the rock bottom is going to come, do I have to wait for that rock bottom? Like, if I know I'm headed in that direction, why do I have to wait for everything to go to hell?
Right.
Why can't I address it before that? So that was question one. And two is, oh my gosh, will it ever go to hell?
I know.
What if
Oh,
I just keep doing this for forever and ever and ever?
I
And
know.
what's going to make this end? Because I knew by then I was Googling, you know, all sorts of things. At what point are you an alcoholic? Am I an alcoholic? What's the definition? How do you know when you're drinking too much? I was Googling everything. So my brain knew, even though I didn't know, that alcohol was no longer serving.
Yeah. I mean, it just starts to take up so much headspace too, even all that Googling and worrying. And oh my gosh, it was just so exhausting. But I relate to that so deeply. And that's a large part of like the message that I'm trying to get out is like, it's first of all, zero judgment if you hit a rock bottom, right?
Of
Like,
course, of course.
beyond understand that. But
Right.
there's also this subset of people that are like, when is this rock bottom going to happen? And do I need to wait for it? Like, I see what direction this is going in. I've done the research. I've listened to the podcast. I hear about the rock bottoms, and I feel like I'm like a couple steps back. So I'm headed that way. Can I just opt out?
Right, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And the great thing about doing that is I didn't get a DWI. I didn't have to go to rehab. I didn't need detox. There was so much that I avoided and so much pain. I mean, at that point, I was so much just hurting myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I have to wait till I'm really causing devastation to everyone around me? Is that required?
I know.
But then the trick is, okay, yeah, I want an off ramp, but I don't have a natural one. And so how do I get off of this ride? How?
I know. How do I build it, right? How do I build
Right.
the off ramp? That's like, And it's so confusing and it's not the same for everybody. That's what's also difficult. It's like, I love having these conversations with people because it's different for everyone how they do it. Like a lot of people throw themselves into exercise and or being outdoors or picking up a new hobby or whatever that might be. Some people will just really struggle through it and feel like
Right.
it's a punishment. And
Yeah.
so it's, I think, just being able to talk about it and know that like, oh no, that like a lot of people go through this and try to
Right.
figure out, well, how do I create this off ramp? And then once you get off and you're kind of like feeling better physically, mentally, everything, you kind of look around and you're like, I got to build a life now, because
Right. Right.
a lot of times that was keeping you stuck or just keeping you okay with one part of your life that was kind of needed for survival and to kind of keep the wheels running, the lights on. We got to pay the bills. We're not going to be like unrealistic here. Like, of course, that part is necessary. But there's this whole other part that I really believe alcohol makes it so easy to keep that door shut.
Right. Right. Exactly. It does. It does.
Yeah. So I feel like that's so intertwined here with like unlocking that curiosity. Like if someone's listening right now and saying, I'm just not that curious, or like,
Right.
I don't
Right.
have, it's like really think about, all right, well, is alcohol still in the picture? And even if it's not, let's say you've quit drinking, but you still think about it.
Right. 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 Yes. And the funny, of course, that goes away, as you know.
Yes.
It and quicker than I ever would have thought it would. It was kind of like that. So I was a really heavy smoker years ago, and my off ramp there was I got pregnant. And so obviously I'm not going to be getting pregnant now. So alcohol, that I wasn't going to have that off ramp.
Yeah.
For me, my off ramp was doing short, like dry July, sober October, little short periods of sobriety because, and I say sobriety, I mean alcohol free, but because it showed me that I could not drink. Like I could go to a dinner and not have wine when everybody else was having wine. I didn't even know that that was possible. It would be like, why go to dinner? I mean, I'm just going to be sitting there
100%.
eyeing everybody's wine and feeling deprived. I don't need an
That's
extra
how I
slice.
felt too. When I
Yeah,
was pregnant, I would say to my husband's like, let's go to this place. Like, you mentioned it a couple times. We were still in New York at that point. I'm like, well, not while I'm pregnant. He's like, no, it's not like sushi or what. And it's like,
right,
yeah, but I can't drink. And he's
right, right,
even to him, because he had such a different relationship with alcohol. Like he was like, really? Because he doesn't even really like to drink alcohol with his food. He thinks it like messes up the taste of it or something. I don't know. He's one of those weird people that doesn't have
right,
a relationship with alcohol. Yeah, but I remember thinking the same thing, and I'm like, "Well, what's the point?" And, like,
right.
now I'm like, "What?" If anything, it makes it so much better because now you're able to, like, really enjoy the food, really take in the atmosphere, really be present for the conversations and all of that, but you get
Right.
so into your way of thinking and your reality that, yeah, you could even think, "Okay, well, what's the point of not" so showing yourself through those small stints of sobriety really helped you.
Yeah, just saying, "Oh, I can do this." And then I just started stacking up more and more of them. But the problem I had at the beginning is I would say, okay, it's dry July, whatever. Well, come August 1, it was like I was in the wine.
Yeah.
But I still think for me that was okay because it really did, those breaks really did help me. I would be drinking less off, I mean, not the first night, but it would sort of regulate my drinking a little bit. And then it showed me it was an off ramp. It showed me that it was possible, that I could go to everything I needed to do in a month and survive without alcohol and be just
Exactly.
fine.
I know, because those first, a lot of time it's just the first that are so hard,
Right.
right? Like the first wedding or the first, I don't know, anything
Yeah,
really.
Thanksgiving at my house with the family and all the drama, I was like, "How do you do that
I
without
know.
without wine or eggnog?" I mean, how does that happen?
And it was so tied to like it being a special event or a special, like I really had that so connected in my brain.
Right,
I didn't realize like, oh, you could just retrain your brain to not have that connected or have like all these amazing non-alc options that are available now. Like
right.
I can still have a beautiful bottle of red non-alcoholic wine and there's the ceremonial ritual aspect of it is there, but not all the downside of actually ingesting the
Right.
alcohol.
And I know a lot of people aren't fans of the non-alcoholic drinks. I am a huge fan. Like
Yeah,
non-alcoholic beers now, I'm an IPA drinker. They're so good. I mean,
so good.
honestly, I think if you had handed me one, I don't think I would have known the difference if you had
I
handed me one
I've
when I
caught
was.
several people, even my husband's friends were here for something, and my whole so especially because I'm in this industry, so I get a lot of stuff sent here. Our entire fridge is like the little beverage fridge is non-alcoholic stuff. I mean, my mother-in-law's in on it now, like everybody.
Yeah.
So went to grab a Blue Moon, and the can looks similar. It tastes identical. It's the
Yeah.
non-alcoholic one. He's drinking it, and I'm like, does he? I don't know, and I get so excited if someone stops drinking. So I was like, oh, that's a non-alc beer, and he's like, what? And he had no idea.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
not like he took a sip and was like, ooh, what is this? He thought it was a Blue Moon. Like, it is
Yeah.
so they've.
It's not O'Doul's anymore.
Oh no, I
They're
know.
actually good.
Yes, so, and you don't feel left out. Like I was just
Right.
talking to somebody about that.
Exactly.
I posted a Japanese non-alcoholic beer with sushi that we were having last night. And so someone commented, and I'm like, I just want to feel like I'm part of it. Like, I don't want to feel left out. I don't want to feel like I can't do something. And
Mhm.
so it's just so nice to have all these different options that you can still have that nice feel. Like, I feel like that hits the same way where I'm like, ooh, this feels special. This feels nice to have that like pairing together.
Yeah,
It just
and for me, just the taste. I love the
I
taste.
know, me too.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
it helps.
Well, so one question I have is okay, so you go through all of this like curiosity, and how did actually writing the book like deepen your transformation, and how like what does life look like now? Like how does this,
So
change you?
the writing the book was great because it's never about the alcohol, right? It's like it's never about the drugs, it's never about the alcohol, it's never so quitting drinking, you still got the same issues that caused you to drink in the first place. And so writing the book helped me realize just all so many issues that I had, right? One interesting thing is one of those issues was depression because I get depression. And do you know that I haven't had a lick of depression since I quit drinking at all? And it has been something I've struggled with so much in my life. And people, of course, tell you that alcohol causes depression, but I just never, ever really believed how much. But anyway, so really it allowed me to process through so many of the issues of identity and finding your joy and getting out of toxic situations and all of those things. And then so once those issues that were causing me to drink were really named and then talked about. And of course, you can't fix everything, but working on fixing it and knowing
Yeah.
it really, it just helped the not drinking take.
Yeah.
And now I lost the line of your question where I
Yeah,
was
just
answering.
like, in the whole process, there's like the quitting drinking, there's the writing of the book. Like,
Yeah.
how has that changed you? Like, what does life look like
Oh
now?
my
Like,
gosh.
what
My
do you,
life is so much better. I mean, just so much better. Of course, because I'm retired, I get to spend my day doing whatever I want. But whatever I want is reading and writing. It's
yeah,
just like that's how I want to spend my time. And cycling and being with friends and family and all of those things too. But a large part of my day is reading and writing because that's where my true joy is. If the curiosity had brought me to painting, maybe I'd be spending my days painting or gardening or whatever your thing is. And so it's really just let me lean in to where I find the most happiness. It has helped, of course, my relationships. Wasn't thinking alcohol was affecting my relationships, but it does. You go to a friend's house for a party, you end up drinking too much and going home early. Okay, fine. I mean, it's not going to end your friendship or anything. I didn't drink and drive, so I would always Uber, and that was a smart decision I made while drunk. But anyway, so it wasn't anything awful, but yet you were missing out on that quality time that you would have with your friends, that you would really be talking and, working, just enjoying each other and really deepening those connections. And I didn't realize how much of that I was missing.
isn't it wild? I
Yeah,
know. It doesn't, and I felt the same way. Because you would hear these horror stories, right? And if anything, that would make me be like, well, my drinking's not like that. Like,
right.
right? And so it's just like, well, okay, but is it heading there? Or is it even just the little bit that it's taking away?
Right.
Is that worth it?
Yeah.
Right.
And for me, so when I drink, I'm a super happy drunk. And so I get louder and louder, and at least I thought funnier and funnier. But the next morning, I would be like, did I say that? Did I actually say that? And just all of that morning regret of, just being free of that is huge,
Oh my
huge,
gosh, I know.
huge.
Well, that's when you were talking about like the depression and how that's helped. Mine was more anxiety.
Right.
So I just thought that is who I am. I've had that high level of anxiety since I can remember. And I just thought that I thought the drinking helped it, to be honest, because I had all this chatter, and so much negativity. And then at least for like the first drink or something, it just eased,
Yeah,
right?
it melts away.
And so I was under the impression that that like helped me. And similar to you, I was very, very happy. Like I was life of the party, like really nothing like terrible usually happened. Never didn't drive because I lived in New York for most of it. So there just wasn't like that like downfall. But what I wasn't seeing was then the next day, it was like a pendulum. So it
Right.
was like, okay, I'm already anxious, but that would throw me into like I would feel so good. But guess what? That's robbing from the next day. So the next day was horrible. And it would
Mhm.
just like I couldn't get myself back to like an equilibrium.
Right.
And what I was noticing is like through all of that, I wasn't getting to the core of what needed to be healed, right? I was just in this like
Yes.
masking of everything. And okay, these achievements, and I'm still, excelling in my career. And I have these nights where at least it feels really good and I feel really light for those moments or whatever. But at the end, what I wanted was just to feel peace.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's like and I thought I wanted the extremes. And what I've learned through this whole journey is like the peace of knowing what I said. I can be as lively. I can
Yeah.
dance whenever I want if I want to. It feels so much more in my control. I don't have the shame spiral. So it's not these extremes so much, but I'm getting to know it and really love that like equilibrium and peacefulness, even if it makes other people uncomfortable because they were used to like the party
Right.
animal. That's okay. Like I'm
Yeah.
willing to get through that discomfort.
Right at first, that was hard for me though, because I was so used to the extremes that I missed the big highs
I
and
know.
probably honestly missed the big lows, even though I didn't think positive. But I was so
Yeah.
used to living that way that it felt boring and flat.
Yep.
And which is weird now to look back on that because my life is anything but boring and flat. But it took some getting used to, just I was so, I think, dysregulated that it took a while for my emotional system and my body and everything to just sort of re-regulate to where now I can feel highs and lows again. It's just
Yeah.
that the lows are nothing compared to what they were.
Absolutely. I mean, it was
Yeah.
even like because I got so used to that spiral, like my recovery days, let's say, when I'm hungover, like I would be in bed and whatever. Like I missed that to a degree when, in sobriety, because that was like my recovery time. That was when I rested. I had to teach
Right.
myself how to like rest, it's
Yeah.
okay to slow down. It's okay to just be lazy. And it was everything. I felt like I was almost a kid again, learning how to live. But yeah, it took a while before I even could venture out and say, what do I want to do? Or like get bored enough to be like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like I'm going to do something.
Right.
I took dance class, and I still
Yeah.
do. I go and take tap dance and all the stuff that it would have been over 20 years.
So,
And just the joy, just fill it. And I'm in a room with 9-year-olds. Like it's hysterical, the
well,
visual of
that's
it,
great.
but it was
Yeah.
awesome. And
You're
like
right.
part of me before had been like, this is ridiculous. You're embarrassing yourself. You're in a room with 9-year-olds. Instead, there were these adorable two little 9-year-olds with girls with bows in their hair. I
Oh,
have two boys. So I walked over, I was like, I have little boys. So this is a dream. And we had so much fun. It's just things that wouldn't have happened before. Right.
right, right. Absolutely. I was at a literary festival yesterday. I just got back yesterday from Chicago at Printers Row Literary Festival, and I was on the stage speaking, or at the days, or dais,
Yeah.
how do you pronounce that? Anyway, and I was like, my life is so different than just like, I could never have imagined this, never. And it's so exciting to see, like, where is your life going to take you? It's so interesting. Like, if you will just really follow the joy, it's so cool to see where you go with it.
Yeah.
And it's just a great time for sure.
That's
Sure.
amazing. Well, this is incredibly inspiring. I think you're going to inspire so many people just from this conversation, but especially with your book. Where can everybody find you after they hear this? They're going to be like, okay, where do I follow Lucie? How do I get in touch?
So I'm on Instagram, and I'm everywhere on all of the social media at Lucie H Frost, and Lucie is spelled Lucie. I am most engaged on Instagram. That's where I, reply back and things like that. And I do a series there called "How the Hell Did I Not Know That?" about things I should have known or didn't, or things other people should have known but don't, or whatever. And it's funny, or at least they're designed to be. And online, Lucie Frost, and again, Lucie. The book is available everywhere you buy books, at Bookshop, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If your indie bookstore doesn't have it in stock, they can order it. And so, yeah, once you learn how to spell my first name, you can find me anywhere you want.
Amazing. And I'm going to put all the links in the show notes. That way everybody will be able to find you and find the book. And this is so inspiring. There's so much to learn from, all of your findings, but also just overall your story, and this idea that you can just decide to get up off the couch, get curious, find that joy. It doesn't have to mean it's going to, like, eventually I'm going to end up on the stage dancing. It can just be simply having a nice Tuesday night and tap dance a little bit, right?
Right. Exactly. Well, I love what you're doing, and I'm so grateful to it. So thank you for doing this podcast. I think all of this, the more we talk about life without alcohol and what it looks like and how you can get there and what fun it is, the better.
I know. Same. Well, thank you so much again, Lucie. And yeah, I'll be connecting with you on Instagram then.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.